Hello, I'm Kyle, and today I'm going to be reviewing Marvel Studios' new Disney Plus show, Moon Knight. I will be reviewing episode 1 of Moon Knight, and to give you a little bit of background, I will say that I am very unfamiliar with the Moon Knight character. I read a lot of comics, but Moon Knight is just one of those heroes where I've just never read any Moon Knight comics before. So I went into this show pretty much cold. I've known things about Moon Knight in the comics. I've seen Moon Knight appear in other types of media, like I believe he was in the Spider-Man Web of Shadows video game. And that was one of those situations where I became introduced to the Moon Knight character, but not necessarily felt inclined to learn more about him. Well, that has changed ever since I've watched this show, because I love episode 1 of Moon Knight. It is a perfect pilot. Whenever you develop a pilot for television, you have to hook the viewer in. You have to say to the viewer, this is why you need to watch this show next week. Book of Boba Fett, I thought, was a terrible pilot. I think the Book of Boba Fett is one of the worst shows on television in the last number of years, and being that it was the last Disney Plus show that I had watched, it really dampened my excitement towards Disney Plus. And thankfully, Moon Knight has reinvigorated my passion. I will start off with Oscar Isaac's performance. Just wonderful. Just everything you expect from Oscar Isaac. There is a moment in this show that actually blew me away, because it was a moment that felt very intimate and personal, and it just has to do with him sitting at a table and realizing that he may be struggling with mental illness, and how that is affecting his own personal life and his social life too. There's just this close-up of Oscar Isaac's face, and this is a broken man, a man that does not know what is happening. And I just found that to be incredibly riveting. I found that we were actually watching Oscar Isaac be given the material that he really deserves, because both Star Wars and X-Men Apocalypse did not really give Oscar Isaac the material that an actor of his caliber deserves. He really should have been given more to do. And I think that Moon Knight is finally the show where we get to see all of the nuance of his performance, all of the layers, all of the complexity. And he is playing multiple roles. He's playing Stephen Grant, that works at a museum, and he also plays Mark Spector, essentially a mercenary, that is also the character of Moon Knight. And the Moon Knight superhero character in this show, I did not expect to see his costume until episode 2 at the most, really. I mean, I was afraid they might wait till the last episode, like they did with all the other Disney Plus shows. But without really spoiling it, you do see his suit in this first episode, and it is a great scene. It's shown in the trailers, but since it's the first episode, I'm glad that it wasn't something that they waited to show until the end, because we've seen this shot multiple times in the trailers. So I'm really digging his character. I really love this idea of a Memento-like just confusion that I don't know how to say. Do I say Mark Spector or Stephen Grant? I'm just going to say Moon Knight. So the issues that Moon Knight deals with, he's just so confused this whole show. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. And there are these great sequences where he's going to get into a fight, but the character he's playing, Stephen Grant, at the time, doesn't know how to fight. So he does this thing where he shakes his head, and then, boom, it cuts to all the guys that were going to fight him on the ground. Time has passed. his other identity has now taken over and beat those guys up. It reminded me a lot of Venom because you have this voice in his head. And as someone that's unfamiliar with the comic origins, I don't know if this is from the comics, but the voice in his head speaking to him reminded me of Venom in 2018's Venom, where he'd be like talking to Tom Hardy's character and telling Eddie Brock like what to do, and then Tom Hardy would let Venom take over. So it reminded me of that, but it was so much better, way better in terms of the writing, and I just really loved how it felt like its own personal story, and it didn't really feel a part of the MCU, because I think one of the issues regarding the MCU lately, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become kind of dependent on the crossovers, on the references. There are no references to the MCU here. This feels like its own story. Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, these are like special characters. These are not characters that are working for Stark Industries or are a part of Hydra. These are characters that we are becoming introduced to, and it feels like a brand new world. It feels like a world that almost is on the order of when we were first introduced to Tony Stark in Iron Man 1, or when we were introduced to Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker in the first Spider-Man. I love it. I want to also mention Ethan Hawke, because Ethan Hawke is in more of this episode than I expected him to be. I thought this would be a character that might show up halfway into the season. Like some other Disney Plus shows, like Hawkeye, that decide to wait till the very last episode to tease their villain. Unlike those shows, Moon Knight decides to reveal our villain in the first episode, and I really love that, and I just love his entrance. It's in the first scene of the show, and it is just him getting his shoes out, putting glass in his shoes, and then walking with the glass on his shoes. And I was not prepared for that, especially in a show like this, where I was just prepared for it to start with Oscar Isaac's Moon Knight. But I like the idea that we are getting an actor like Ethan Hawke, who's very particular about the roles he plays and is very dedicated to his performance, and he's finally chosen to star in an MCU Marvel project. I really, really like that it looks as if he not only cares about this performance, but it looks like this performance is going to be really good, and this character might be a really great villain in the show. Is there anything else I could say about Moon Knight? I like the needle drops. I like the different uses of music in the show. I liked how the show didn't feel like it was too short. It felt like the right length. And all I will say is that right now, I think Moon Knight is possibly, in terms of like first episodes, it's possibly my favorite pilot of all the Disney Plus shows so far. Right now, my favorite Disney Plus show is Falcon and Winter Soldier. I thought it was a great series, but this may surpass it. And if this show is as good as it looks to be, I think it might be one of the best Marvel projects done yet. It may be the best Marvel project right now since Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But it all depends on how this show goes. But right now, I'm loving the story. I'm loving the characters. I love the take on mental illness. I love how they are depicting a character that we've never seen before in a world that feels like its own thing and not reliant on references. It's just an overall, so far, great pilot, and I really recommend it. It's on Disney Plus right now, so if you have Disney Plus, go check out Moon Knight. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.